Hi everyone. So welcome to this Harvard referencing session online. We will be talking about the different aspects of Harvard referencing. We will cover what is referencing and plagiarism, how to apply different conventions of the Harvard referencing style to your assignments, and basically how to integrate secondary sources and referencing into your work properly. Harvard referencing consists of two parts. The first part will appear in your text, the body of your work. It could be at the introduction, in the different paragraphs, even the conclusion. This is called the in-text citation. In-text citation will be in the form of the surname of the author, comma, the year of the source in between round brackets. And the second part is the reference list, which is a section that comes after your conclusion at the end of your work. This is a list of the full reference of the different sources that you have already in-text cited in your work in alphabetical order. So here you can see an example of an in-text citation. Please note that after the author, there should be a comma, which is missing here. So Huxley is the surname of an author, and the source was published in the year 2018. So this is what is an example of an in-text citation. You can also see on the right-hand side that there is the page number added. So P dot means the page number of whatever idea that you sort of mentioned in the work. So we are referencing the exact page of where it was taken from that source. And in this extract, these are examples of texts. And if you look at the text closely, you can see in-text citations there. You will see Velt and Gould 2010. Always there should be a comma after the author names, which are missing here. But for Harvard referencing coding, which we usually base on Cite and Write standard, we should have a comma after the author names. As mentioned, your reference list, which is the second element of the Harvard referencing, will come at the end of your work after the conclusion. It will be a list in alphabetical order. So you have to sort the list from A to Z, and you will normally, sometimes students may write reference list when they have only sources that they have in text cited in their work, and they could use bibliography as a heading when they have actually included more sources that they have not in text cited in their work, but sort of helped them in understanding certain concepts, having more knowledge on the topic. So if you didn't in-text cite some of these sources and you're providing it in the reference list, you would then have the heading called bibliography. This is an example of a reference list. You can see that it is not bulleted, and there is space in between the different references. And don't worry about the format of each reference yet, because we will talk about this. I just want to draw your attention on how it is listed in alphabetical order. So let's talk about sources. I have been mentioning sources. So what are sources? Sources are where you will go to find information, where you will go to research. And these include books, journal articles, websites. We have different other digital sources like Facebook, social media platforms, newspapers. All of these are sources. This is the list that you can see here are all different sources, but you will mainly interact with journal articles and books as secondary sources. You will need to log into your YoniHub account and just access your My Library section. In that section, you will see referencing under library search. You click on that referencing, it will take you to a page you can study and have more information about referencing. You can look at the tutorials that are there. What you want to click on this page is Cite Them Right Online, which takes you to the database with information about how to reference each source. So the Cite Them Right site is very interesting in the sense that you can, as I said, look at how each source is referenced. So let's take a look at one example of an electronic book. So if you really go on clicking how to reference an electronic book, the page that opens up gives you the citation order. It gives you an example of the format, how each element should be listed, how the name should be written, how initial there should be a full stop, how the year is in between round brackets, the title is in italics, and so on. And also next to it on the left hand side, it gives you the example of the in-text citation, as well as the reference, the different elements when put together, how it should look like. So honestly speaking, referencing is no rocket science, right? So as long as you know where to go to reference any source, which is the Cite Them Right database, you can actually reference really any source, whether it's a book, it's a website, it's an image, it's a chart, it's a Facebook post, and so on. It's really getting familiar with this database, the different tabs, the different sections in it, really interacting and really hovering through and browsing through this database. You can also look at the tutorial that is existing in this database, very useful. You may easily launch the tutorial and follow the online step-by-step tutorial that will definitely enhance your knowledge about referencing. So when do we have to actually make use of sources? So this is when you need to give, for example, definitions. You would be consulting what authoritative authors have mentioned as definitions for certain topics, certain things. When you are presenting facts, you would need to support these facts with, again, what has been said and published about those facts. So when you need to evaluate, and you would need to be very analytical and evaluative in your writing, you will again refer to secondary sources and mention what was published about this idea, this particular topic, and so on. So this is why it's important that you know referencing, because you need to acknowledge all information that do not belong to you. Therefore, in your research, the skill of selecting the appropriate sources, the appropriate information from those sources that become important, because you need to show why this is related to your idea, to the topic that you're covering in your essays. How do we use sources? There is 3 techniques. First one is quotation. We copy paste a certain line, a text, a certain information and into our work. We need to use the quotation mark here. Paraphrase or summary, it is to write it in our own words, but the idea is borrowed from the secondary source. Another person basically wrote about those ideas. In all 3 techniques, we need to reference. This is an example of a quotation. As you can see, it's in between the quotation marks, as well as we have the in-text citation that follows the quotation. Normally, you quote when the text that you're quoting is of high value to your work. Basically, it's adding sense and meaning to the topic of your work. It is very important that you're able to evaluate the quotes that you add to your work, whether it's really important for you to quote or not. Just know that if the quote is really highlighting its unique language, and if you try to change the language in your own words, the meaning could be lost, then it would make sense for you to use quotations. So normally you would quote really when it is really significant. Otherwise, you just paraphrase the word, the text. When you paraphrase, your percentage plagiarism is less. Turnitin will not produce a lot of highlighted text when giving you a report about your plagiarism status. So therefore we recommend actually students to paraphrase instead of quoting. However, if you are quoting and it's really relevant that you do quote, when you quote, you should know how to present that quote. For example, you would introduce the quote, you would probably say, according to Smith, and then open the quotation marks and start the quote, making sure that the sentence is grammatically correct. So we want you to always be in control of your writing, and when you quote also for the sentence to make sense. So certain points to remember, just make sure you don't forget the quotation marks that you have actually referenced. That is, after your quotation marks, there would be an in-text citation there, that you actually wrote, your writing style is correct, that you really copy-pasted and you did not change the words in the quote. So all are points to remember when quoting. Summary. Let's start to talk about summary. Summary is when you actually need to, there's long texts. Could be one full article of 10 pages that you want to summarize into 3 lines. So you're really writing concisely. You are communicating the main ideas here. So it's very important that you read the text well, that you're able to gather the important themes, and making sure that these actually relate to your topic, and you write the understanding of the long text into your own words without changing the meaning. So remember to reference the part that you summarized. So actually, if you wrote 3 lines as a summary to a long text, there should be the in-text citation at the end of the 3rd sentence. So always make sure that even though it is in your own words, so even summary should have an in-text citation. Therefore, it should be referenced properly. When you have a text in your own words, as suggested before, you need to have the in-text citation. When you use the author as part of the sentence, as in this example here, when it says car, uses the analogy of a poker game and so on, car becomes part of the sentence, and you can see that it is not added in the in-text citation. Only the year comes in between brackets just after the author name. In fact, this is the author's surname. So if you're referring to the author in your sentence, you need only to put the year next to the author name in between round brackets. He suggests that even if a manager claims, again we are referring to car, but we already mentioned the in-text citation of car, so it is okay that when we are saying he suggests that we have no year there, it has been in-text cited just a sentence before that one. Again, here we look at some examples of in-text citation, how it's done when sentences have been paraphrased. So according to Smith, the Smith is part of the sentence, so only the year is in between round brackets. Social anthropology and psychology have a number of similarities. In the second sentence, several similarities exist between social anthropology and psychology, states Smith. Smith's name was mentioned at the end of the sentence, so next to his name, we have the year. Smith notes that if social anthropology and psychology were compared, several similarities would be found. Also, what I want to draw your attention here, it is one sentence conveying a particular meaning, but can be written in different ways. So when you're paraphrasing, just know that there is no standard way you can change a particular text in your own words. You could do it in different ways. What is important is that you don't change the meaning when you put it in your own words. Let's have a look at another example of paraphrasing. So at the top, you have the bibliographical entry for a source. It is a book, basically, written by Gracian in the year 2000. So how the exact sentence appears in that book, okay, the World Wide Web has a lot to offer, but not all sources are equally valuable or reliable. This is a word for word copy pasted from that book, and you can see it's in between quotation marks. Now, if we need to paraphrase this sentence, two proposals is suggested here. According to Gracian, Gracian is the author next to his name because we have used his name as part of the sentence, so only the year is in between brackets. Internet sources vary in accuracy and usefulness. And here I want to highlight that it is not just changing one or two words and replacing synonyms. The sentence structure has changed. Or another way to paraphrase that particular sentence is, in her evaluation of websites, Gracian argues that internet sources vary in accuracy and usefulness. So you can see we have said the same thing in different way. Again, the sentence structure is different. So just to highlight that when you paraphrase, you just don't need to change one or two words. You need to change the sentence structure, formulate it in your own words without changing the meaning. So you paraphrase for different reasons, okay? To integrate the sources to support your text, you would paraphrase that text. And when you paraphrase, you have the liberty to write the text in your writing style. Therefore, there is a flow throughout, there is consistency and flow in your writing style throughout the essay. And also, you are expressing the information in a very clear and simple way. You try it through your paraphrase to restate the ideas in a very simplistic way. And normally you paraphrase when it's the text is really not worth to quote. As you would be doing for quotations, you need to be in control of your quotes. For the texts that you paraphrase as well, you have to be in control, meaning that you would apply a language, a tone of that writing into, smoothly integrated within the rest of your writings, to show that you are in control of your text. It's your essay, it's your points that matter. So you would restructure the wordings. You would rephrase it in a way to highlight certain aspects of the ideas that you want to present. The best way of doing paraphrasing is reading the text and understanding what is the meaning of the text. From your understanding, without looking at the original text, you then try to remember and write from memory. Or if that doesn't work, you try to make as if you have to explain it to someone to make that someone understand. By doing so, you will automatically put the ideas in very simplistic ways, a simplistic format. So you would then be able to write in your own words, changing the structure of the sentence without really changing the meaning. So when you paraphrase, make sure that you are having in-text citations at the end of the text that you paraphrased, and that you actually signpost if you are referring to the same source. Basically, you would say, he suggests that according to the same author, more has been said. This was a brief session on Harvard referencing, both referencing the sources as well as integrating sources into your text correctly takes practice. Therefore, the more you practice, the better you will get at paraphrasing, quoting, summarizing, as well as making sure that you referenced properly. These are my contact details. You can always come to the LET for more assistance.